record. Welcome to Road to Money Match Friday. I am your host, Weasel, and joined by my two lovely co-hosts and co-creators, everything, Tato and JustFrameHotPocket. Introduce yourselves, boys.
You go first.
Hey, how's it going? JustFrameHotPocket, here to talk about color, a little bit of the players, and glad to be here, and joined by my two wonderful colleagues. Thanks much, Weasel, for having me on, and thanks much for joining us, Tato.
Oh, of course, love to. Glad to be here. Gonna fill you in with all the numbers, the nerd stuff, the stats, the weird little facts that, hey, maybe you didn't know. So it'll be cool. Matchups in Tekken are pretty crazy. Lots of, room for combinations, permutations, things of that nature. Definitely excited.
Alright. And with the introductions out of the way, we will move into what we see, or the matches, of course. So obviously we have Chopsticks versus Ruby, the Clapback.
Absolutely, round two.
This is going to be the rematch. We're going to see if Marcel ends up in another YouTube video, or if Ruby finally has to shut her fucking mouth. One of the two things is going to happen.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure Ruby's going to shut her fucking mouth even if she loses.
That's very true. There might be a part 3. And with that, I currently have up Tato's very informative top 5 tech tidbits for this matchup that we're going to see. Do you want to explain your thoughts or go through them?
I'd love to.
For sure.
So let's start off. This matchup is gonna probably be, almost, we can all agree, it's gonna be Fang versus Lucky Chloe. These two, they don't play any other characters. None we need to worry about. We're gonna be seeing Fang versus Lucky Chloe. And this matchup, it's gonna be, oh, Jesus. It's gonna be a party. Let's just put it that way. There's gonna be some nutty stuff happening. But there are some fundamentals. Maybe we'll see one or two of them. I don't know if we're lucky. I think the first and most important thing of all, is going to be something that I want to see from Ruby. I kind of doubt I'm going to see it from Ruby, but maybe we'll see it. And that is Chloe's wall-standing 14-frame launcher. That is going to be really useful because Fang has a minus 14 low. That's very, very good. Quarter circle forward 1. That low, it's really good. It's fast, pretty fast, at least 22 frames, but it comes from the quarter circle forward motion. It's minus 14, as I said. It's plus on hit, and it counter hit launches. But really, what makes that move so good is the range and the fact that it goes under everything. This move deletes hitboxes. It does not care. Right under your mids, under your highs, probably under your lows. What do I know? I mean, it really is just, it murders everything. So
Sinks into the floor, that one. Cool.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody out there who, as long as you're not that Fang, who just doesn't go through a match just hating quarter circle forward 1. I mean, it's just such an effective move. It's a primary tool for Fang by far. As a Horong player, I absolutely hate it. It's, I get counter hit by it all the time, and it's just a pain in the ass.
You can go right under your flamingo pressure with that move.
Absolutely.
Think about it.
does not care. Brutal. So if you can block that Ruby, we can get that nice Chloe launch. That would be pretty great. I think that would really help her out in this matchup if she can do that. So let's see. We'll see how that goes. Prevent Fang from getting his mix going from mid range, far range. We'll see. But Chloe got some other stuff too. No one talks about this, but after all these buffs she keeps getting, Chloe 2/2, especially if you have that just frame, pretty damn good. Maybe not range-wise, but
at I-12 though.
At I-12, the damage for I-12 is among the best. 35. No, very few characters are getting that much damage. Yeah, it's not a ton more than other characters, but it is still well above average. So I think that could be really good because Fang is the master of moves that are really good but kind of risky. And if there's anyone that comes to mind, it is 1+2. Fang 1+2 is another that just, why is it so good? It's so good. It does so much. Let's list out the properties, guys. Let's think. So first of all, it's a Sabaki berry that launches. It is a Sabaki punch parry. If he gets this, it's an easy bake launch. He pairs you with this easy launching punch parry. All right, that's pretty good. It's a mid. It's pretty fast too. It's not like a really slow Sabaki or anything that's easy to counter hit like some others. It's fairly fast as far as they come. It's only -12, and he also gets a really good follow-up on counter hit as well as on a Sabaki. Weasel, what's the exact follow-up again? I don't quite remember.
This is actually more normal hit, counter hit. It does the same thing. They fall over.
Never mind.
But he can if he's very quick, he can do a micro dash into shoulder for max damage, or he can do the rolling and do a 43, the headstand kick, flip over. It'll hit Oki. There's so many other options. He can run up and go back turn immediately if he wants to mix up. And this is just a normal hit. This isn't a launch. If he fucking Sabaki something, they're going for a ride every single time.
You know, I think it also really begs the question is how effective is this in the actual Chloe matchup? You know, we've all seen the meme recently, you know, the Fang and Steve meme of, you know, think, Steve, think. You know, I've been parrying your 1+2, you know. You know, but does that translate well to Chloe at all? That's something I wonder.
I think that if Marcel uses it smart, we could definitely see it being used to its fullest here. You know, maybe he could set up some sort of, if he's seeing that Ruby isn't punishing properly, especially with 2-2 of all things, he can just insert it there. And if he gets punished, he gets punished. If he doesn't get punished and the frames are off, he gets a launch. You know?
Sure.
I think in certain situations, that's definitely something you totally go for. In the low life situation, you know, and if Ruby's jabbing a lot or using down forward 1 to close out rounds, you can just make the call out. And if that hits, it does a lot of damage. And it can definitely be a comeback tool.
For sure. Really good. I think it will be to an extent a matchup knowledge thing on Ruby's part. Because 1+2, yeah, it's not like the slowest Sabaki, but slow enough that I feel it's not that hard to get the optimal punish, right? It's not like a, you know, Fang while standing 3, right? Where that's -12 or 13, something like that. But the block stun is so short. I feel like 1+2 is a much easier move to punish, but
you know, you bring up a fair point. If he ends up doing wall standing 3 or quarter circle forward 3, he could just Sabaki after that if he sees that Ruby's being too slow on the punish. There are a lot of fucked up situations that he can create off of his moveset to land that.
Down forward 2-2 into Sabaki.
That's
one.
That's the cursed one. Safe wall bounce into safe, or not safe, but safe wall bounce into punch launcher. Like, why are you jabbing?
Gross.
It goes back to the Steve meme where it's like, think. Why would you don't jab check me?
Dare you?
That was one for the Tekken ages, let me tell you.
It's a good one. Safe wall bounce. Did I hear that right? Oh my god, Fang and his wall game is pretty nuts. Let's talk about that a bit. Fang's wall game. It's really good. I think it's really solid. I mean, Fang has, for instance, a clean hit low that's really good at the wall that, you know, gives him very strong damage. Sidestep 4. It's a launcher in the open, sure, but in the open it's really hard to land in a lot of cases because you need that clean hit and it's a sidestep. So it's not a good combo. You know, slow and need a clean hit. But at the wall, time to guess. And to mix with that from a sidestep, he's got sidestep 1+2, which is a mid wall splat that's plus on block blow. That's not a fun mix-up. You know, you can't really win with that one. It's just brutal.
There are some rounds where Feng will carry you to the wall and put you into an Oki situation where I think I've told you this before, Tato, but you're better off just waking up into a hop kick and just hitting shit, because the damage he'll get off of that is way better to just go into the next round knowing having them know that you tried that, so that they have to be a little bit more tight with their pressure instead of you just eating the mix up every time, because then it's like they don't have to think about it. They can just,
they know you won't mash.
And you're just free at that point.
True.
This wall game is fucked up.
It doesn't end there. I mean, safe mid wall bounce, we said it, you know. That's downward 2-2, hella good wall bounce. Wall splats, he's got great stuff. That shoulder for, you know, long range wall splat punisher, he's got the rage drive version of it, which is basically the same thing, but plus, I mean, means that, even from pretty far away from the wall, he's still wall splatting you, in a lot of cases off of whiff punishment, off of block punishment. Really, really good. I mean, it's a complete wall game, I'd say. For sure.
Yeah, maybe not S tier wall game. I mean, we're not talking about somebody like Maven here, but definitely among the better wall games in the game for sure. And I think you do that comparison. I think you hit the nail on the head. You got a really good solid wall game versus not such a great one.
Oh yeah, Chloe's wall game not the best. Her wall combo damage is pretty low. That's unless she gets that ender from her launch from her combos where she gets that perfectly spaced Kali roll. But that's so specific. And most of the time she's doing like 1 down forward 1 3 4 or 1 down forward 1 back 1 for flip over. But that's like really low damage. And it's not good. Her wall splat tools, she can wall splat at 12 frames. A lot of characters can. But she needs to just frame to do it. She doesn't have a good, safe, like fast wall splat. She's got forward forward 3 and it's pretty good. It's safe, but it's linear and it's slow. It requires a forward motion. Other than that, her wall bounce is risky. She has a forward 1. I think it's forward 1+2, which is a plus on block wall bounce. And wow, that sounds so great. It's a seeable high, definitely like a really good gimmick move for people who don't know about it. Because who thinks about seeable highs? Everyone talks about seeable lows, right? We have to duck on reaction. But she has what? I think it's a 27 frame plus on block wall bouncing high. That's like, it's a terrible move on paper. It's very seeable, but it's like a snake edge wall bounce of sorts. Ah, man. Like, she's inventing her own form of gimmickry.
Absolutely.
But her other wall bounce, down back 2, I think it is, down back 1. Yeah, I think it's down back 1. Is actually pretty good in its own way, in that it's a power crush mid wall bounce that's only -13. Every other power crush wall bounce that's mid is either -14 or launch punishable or is like locked behind a stance or something like that. But not hers, -13. But that doesn't matter. I mean, Fang doesn't care at 13 frames. He's going to shoulder you. It's not like he gets anything better at 14.
And it's not like shoulder is a bad punish on Fang.
Oh god. It's great.
You don't want to get hit by too many of those.
Absolutely. Those will chip away.
Definitely. You don't want to take that kind of risk as Chloe, at least not at like high level. Maybe does. We can see quite a few of those. I don't know. We'll see. But I feel like it's a very flawed, risky, committal, slow wall game consisting of like linear tools and a lot of inconsistent gimmicky stuff and low damage. It's not a good bundle. I don't think it's a very good wall game. If I were a Chloe player, I would go to an infinite stage, and as Fang, I'd take a walled stage. So I hope to see some counter picks like that.
Yeah, so it really begs the question. We have this matchup where we assess it's going to be character versus character every single game, all the way to the FT10 from first game to the 10th win. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see if these characters or see if these players decide that stage selection is going to be a big part of their strategy.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see about that. I imagine Marcel's probably going to want to pick Sook or maybe Violet Systems, and Ruby might want to stick to Infinite Azure or Snowfall stage. Especially
assuming Ruby cares.
Yeah.
Ruby is a practitioner of the wall running mix-up. She can do that very well. So that works very, very well on an infinite stage, especially after spikes.
Yeah, I'd hope to see that. Personally, I think a lot of second players, because, tournaments, especially nowadays, tournaments are that common, just kind of either random their stage all the time or pick the stage they like. But I would love to see more stage counter pick meta, in a matchup like this. I really hope we get to see. So, cross our fingers, I guess. And this matchup, man, it's it's gonna be something. It's gonna be a party, and I think the reason that is, in large part, is because these characters have so many evasive panic tools, just evasive moves in general, and crazy ways to either slink out of your pressure or slink out of your offense. Just disregard your hitboxes completely. On both sides, but in different ways. With Feng, he's got the kind of tools that are really good for getting out of pressure. Back one, really good interruption tool, one of the best in the game. 10 frame counter hit knockdown into a guaranteed shoulder. You know, that's really good with the micro dash, but you know, he's got those.
Yeah,
I trust Marcel.
It hits him with the stop sign. I think everybody knows that move. Just fucking hoo-yah, and then you're on your back with your legs up in the air, and he's sticking his Iron Fortress in there. For what, 55 damage? It's quite a fucking bit. Maybe 45, but it's at 10 frames. Whoa.
I remember reading. Yeah.
I'll tell you, as a Hwoarang player, and both of you have played my Hwoarang quite a bit, and I can get pretty aggressive with the Hwoarang and the Flamingo pressure, but Fang is just one of those characters that makes me stop and think. I usually don't go through too long of any sort of Flamingo flowcharts against Fang, just because he can bring any of that stuff at any time and just completely flip the match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
100% agree with that. Fang is the pit bull of the Tekken universe. He just stays in close and locks you down. And when it comes to characters like Hwoarang, who are locked in their stances, where their offensive pressure is, he can just say, nah, not today.
Yeah. It's not
Absolutely.
fair, man. It's not fair. Like, when he's on you, it's so hard to get out. But when you're on him, no, he just does not care.
And of course, we've been doing this for 4 seasons, and I'm still learning that hard lesson against Fang all the time, so...
It's tragic. Back one, so good. Up forward two, so good for lateral evasion. You've got back forward one, which is insane. Like, he teleports right out of there immediately for insane backwards evasion, linear evasion, I guess you might say. I mean, that move, yeah, it's launch punishable, but it goes back so far. I consider it to be as close as you get in Tekken to a DP, aside from, the actual DPs.
Yeah. When it goes into slow-mo, if that move slow-mos against another move, he leaves the screen. Like,
Yeah.
You don't even see him. That's
He's
how
gone.
you know.
Nothing personal, kid.
Yep. I'll see you in the next round, bitch. And then he sticks it in.
Ugh. Those are all really good, and of course Wombless like we talked about earlier. So he's just got everything, the amazing parries. He's got other parries too, but that's the best one if you ask me. So he can evade you in any way he wants, whether it be horizontal, laterally, linearly. He can interrupt you, and he can parry you. It's just, how do you sustain pressure against that kind of kit? He has got every option,
Mm-hmm.
Chloe doesn't, I think, have that. She's got tools, but her panic moves, I think, aren't necessarily. Maybe her evasion isn't necessarily in the panic department. It's more in like neutral, in keep out. Up 3 is the classic, that brutal hop kick, insanely evasive. It just goes under every jab ever. I haven't seen it go under a lot of mids, but really just the evasion on it and the pushback is crazy. That's another thing. The pushback on it's ridiculous. If you block that tip range, you're going to be left at range like 2.5. I've played quite a few characters like Nina, Katarina, who, when they block that tip range, they don't get anything. There's nothing that hits. Nothing punishes at all. I've tried. It's brutal. The pushback is nuts, so it just makes it this really brutal tool where you can't press it. But even if you block it, sometimes that's not good enough, and the block stun is so short. It's just a really effective way to control space, to control frames. You just can't get too antsy against Chloe because she will hopkick you and ruin your day. Another one that's not quite as infamous, but I think also worth mentioning, is back 1+2. A really good high power crush that's pretty fast. Again, not the best panic move. I don't usually consider power crushes to be in the best category of panic 2 moves always, because power crush starts at frame 8 universally, aside from a few things. But it's still a really good tool because it's a safe power crush that's pretty fast. And yeah, what else do you need to say, right? It knocks down. Yeah, it's a high, but it can be a little tricky to duck it in time. The tracking on it can be pretty good at closer ranges, especially, although it's definitely steppable from further ranges. I think it's a solid move. She definitely has good ways of keeping you in check in neutral, and of course, Cali roll, the last one, insanely evasive.
Yeah, it's last but not least. That's for sure.
Not least.
How many early retirements has Cali Roll caused? You know,
all of them.
all of them.
At least 98%.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
It ends you. Delete. It's the delete button.
You know, famous dietitians have gone on record saying you can only eat 2 calorie rolls before you die in a round. That will end your round for you if you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No matter the stage. No matter the stage.
I think the staple does over 100. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot.
It's more than it should be. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's really good. So I think they both have great panic tools. I hope to see some of that come out. I definitely know we will. We're gonna see some shenanigans. Chloe's also got some like funky crouching stuff. She's got a competent full crouch game, which I think will add to that evasion. Full crouch down forward 2 is especially evasive of her full crouch moves. It's not like crazy, but it can go under quite a few highs. Pretty common and mids. Sorry, it's unique in that it's a full crouch homing mid that has true high crouch frames and a bit of mid evasion too, but not a ton. So that's really good, legitimate good evasion in that regard. Not just stupid Chloe bullshit, but
it's a real move. You gotta respect it. You gotta
know
how to deal with it, or it's all the Chloe player really needs.
Yeah. Just looking back, to the round 1 matchup between Ruby and Marcel, Marcel ate a lot of Cali rolls in that first matchup. If you go back and you look at the meme YouTube video that Ruby made just memeing on Marcel after that matchup, the amount of Cali rolls that went into that match was revolting. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It was revolting.
It's more than you'd expect to see in one first attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
All right, Ruby, do it again. You can do it. I mean, neutral. I'm not biased. Not biased. Okay. Last but not least, I think that Feng has one really good tool of his own up his sleeve, specifically versus Chloe, which is his shoulder. Shoulders, yeah, we talked about it a bit. Iron Mountain, 13th frame, mid, knockdown, great damage, great range. Feng's, I think, has some of the best range of any shoulder in the game, along with Armor King's. His is definitely up there for one of the best. This is a matchup where it shows. So why are shoulders are really good against Chloe in particular. Why is that? It's a few reasons. She's got a few moves that are kind of weak to shoulders. Cali Roll is the first one. Cali Roll is a move where it's got the optional extension where she can either do the extension and you need a 13 frame move that doesn't get evaded by the extension in order to, interrupt it properly. So a lot of highs won't work. You need to have either a nice mid or, a well-timed high with a good hitbox, something like that. And she has the option of rolling back, and, that will evade a lot of stuff. She can even space the initial hit of Cali Rolls that when she rolls back, it'll go back even farther. A lot of people don't know that. They'll test like, oh, my character has an easy Cali Roll option select, but it's just not consistent at range. That's the kind of nitty-gritty Tekken stuff that's maybe not obvious to a lot of people, but with Feng, he doesn't have to worry about that. Shoulder, great 13 frame mid. Even if you block that kind of spaced Cali Roll, you're still getting a clean punish. So yeah, does the job. Great Cali Roll OS. It's not the best. It's not, a launch like a screw or anything, but I'd say it's pretty good as far as they come. Definitely service. Other than that, it's also really good against her back turn 2, aka left twist 2. It's a really good move because it's really crucial for enforcing her left twist mix-up. Before they added that move, you could just down jab to beat left twist, to punish left twist, down back 3 on hit and all our other left twist transitions. It was ridiculous. Why? What were you thinking, Bandai Namco? But then they added that, and that move will just counter hit, straight up counter hit launch you if you try to down jab there. So it's really good, but it's not safe. It is -8. She's left in back turned, and -8. Yeah, it sounds safe. It's not. She's in back turned. If she tries to Cali Roll, if she tries to hold back, if she tries to hold down back, shoulder is going to be all of it, every option. So yeah, really good for that. Definitely very strong. And finally, we talked about her up 3 earlier. How is that really big pushback? and it's got low block stun. You want a quick move to be able to punish it just so that you get it out in time. You want one with great range. Oh, if only my character had a 13-frame, really long-range Punisher.
If only. I wonder.
If only. Oh well. I rest my case.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So, and with that, all the technical notes out of the way, we can move on to the player matchup given to
Take it
us
away.
by Mr. Hot Pocket himself. Take it away.
All right, so take a look at this player versus player matchup. First of all, to start things off, we start with what's generally considered the commonly accepted trifecta of what makes a Tekken player or a fighting game player in general. First, you got the head, you got the hands, and you got the heart represented in these radar charts. Knowledge at the top representing the head, movement and execution on the right side representing the the hands, and then the clutch and audacity on the left representing the actual heart. You take a look at these two players. You have Marcel. Very well-rounded Tekken player. If I were to rank him somewhere in the MNT universe, easily Marcel drops into the top 20 to 25%. Very solid Tekken player, not a whole lot of discernible weaknesses in any of those 5 areas. You take a look at a player like Ruby. This radar chart is just ridiculous. It's hilarious. Ruby in a nutshell, straight up, to be completely frank, she's not a Tekken player. It's not because she's bad, it's not because she's a noob, it's because she just doesn't care about any sort of traditional Tekken rules. All she knows is that she plays Chloe, and Chloe has these insane tools that expose a ton of people, and she is going to troll the shit out of you all night with them. Not a lot of Tekken knowledge. As you'll notice on the strengths and weaknesses for somebody like Ruby, doesn't care about frames, ends up being a strength for her as well as it is a weakness because she just doesn't care. She doesn't care to know what they are. She just wants to impose her tools and her biggest player strength, which is her audacity, upon the other player. But just to go back and talk a little bit about Marcel. You look at this player versus player matchup, this is a really fun matchup because you have probably one of the most confident players in Minnesota Tekken on one side represented by Marcel versus the queen of trolling and Ruby on the other side. So, you kind of have this unstoppable force versus immovable object type of matchup, right? You have somebody like Marcel. You talk to him about the game, you talk some shit, he is the first person to come in and say, I bet you won't put $100 on it. Every single time. Very confident, loves the game, and just absolutely without fail, The big words from the Marcel man himself, without fail. But you take a look at some of his actual more tangible strengths as a Tekken player. Very good mix-up game as a Feng player. Pretty audacious with this Feng play as well. He's a guy that he's not afraid to mix it up, run up on you, and go into back turn. And having played Marcel plenty of times myself, a run-up back turn is a very launch punishable moment, right? But sometimes when he does it and you realize that you missed that window, it's an immediate sick feeling in the pit of your stomach because he's imposing his game on you and now you have to play his mix-up game. And it's very, very difficult to deal with sometimes. On top of that, above average execution player. He can hit some pretty good Fang combos and rarely does he drop. So that's some strengths that are really going well for Marcel heading into this matchup. Weaknesses for Marcel heading in. First of all, we got to address the pass. Marcel was exposed hard in round 1. It became very, very clear he walked into that matchup not knowing how to defeat some of that Chloe tech. And, to be completely honest with you, I have not seen Marcel on a whole lot of Tekken this week. So coming into tomorrow, I'm not sure exactly how much Tekken knowledge he's going to have regarding the Chloe matchup for the run back. And then finally, the other side of confidence is he can come in and be a little bit hard-headed in a set like an FT10. Believes very, very confidently in his game, so sometimes he just doesn't adapt when things are going his way. He just really sticks to his tech. With a game like this, that might end up not being a huge factor, but it is something that Marcel has shown and demonstrated in the past. Now we flip this match over, we take a look at a player like Ruby. Once again, we said it before, she's the queen of mind games. She is the Empress Troll of MNT, bar none. Nobody does it better. We're talking key charges, talking key charges, hop kick into hop kick into hop kick. She will do that sort of stuff just to get inside your head. Ridiculous Oki game really uses those Chloe exposure tools very, very well. You hit the dirt, and all she wants to do is, you know what, you're not getting your turn back. I'm going to keep my turn. I'm going to cancel your turn, and it's going to be my turn for the rest of this set. But you got to look at the very clear weaknesses in Ruby's game too. Extremely low knowledge. Ruby is just as exposable as anybody else she exposes. If you can expose the hole in the Chloe game, you have really taken away Ruby's sole asset going into this matchup. And then finally, a weakness for both characters, like we said before, this is a Chloe versus Feng matchup. Either one of them impose their will upon each other and get a very clear and cut distinct advantage. It's not probably going to go well for the person who's on the losing side of things.
I expect this set to be very explosive, if anything.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, somebody's going to get a lead and they're going to run with it, and the other person's going to probably struggle to try and snatch it back from them. But I see both of them definitely changing their game plan up enough to mix up the other person just a little bit amount that they need to snag it back, hopefully. I also predict a lot of key charges in this set.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
Nice.
Both just trying to get into each other's head all match up. Yeah. So that brings me to the keys to victory that I see between Marcel and Ruby. First of all, on part of Marcel, he's got to learn this matchup. If he's going to come off with a victory, he's got to learn how to deal with Chloe. We'll see if he does it. When it comes to his pressure with Feng, he's got to keep it a little bit balanced. He can't be too aggressive because, Ruby's just going to try to pull out all that bullshit just to, halt that pressure in its tracks. But he also can't be too passive against Ruby. He has to impose his will somehow and not create the condition where he's always reacting to Ruby's game with Chloe. And then finally, he's got to punish the BS. He's got to make Ruby think about her life bar, because that's the one thing that gives Ruby a very distinct advantage, is she just doesn't care about her life bar. She can be on a pixel health worth of life and she'll still pull out all the crazy tech just to see if she can't get a big Cali roll combo and make you choke versus her just losing that last pixel of health. Finally, on the other side with Ruby, she's got to find the holes in Marcel's game here again. Expose that lack of good matchup knowledge and just keep imposing that Chloe will. And she can do that by staying crazy. Just keep doing it. If it worked the last time, why wouldn't it work this time, right? Just keep going with the stupid Cali rolls, the hop kicks into hop kicks, because clearly that stuff worked. Why not do it again? And then finally, big ask for Ruby. She's got to be prepared to adapt. This is probably the one thing that Ruby has to learn how to do to survive FT10s against a really solid Tekken player. And that's when her matchup gets exposed, that she has to learn how to adapt it so she can come back and prevail and be on top.
100% agree with all of that.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. Pretty much, these two players, they're almost like the same player, but with different characters. It's a very interesting matchup.
Think of an alternate universe.
Ego, lots of ego going in.
Yeah. Oh man, it makes sense why it's so hyped to see them play each other.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have my figurative popcorn the whole time, be munching on
Absolutely.
that. For real.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
All right, and with that put away, we will move into our second matchup of the night, the headliner, the main card, if you will, and that would have to be.
It's time.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
That's gonna be young GDIs versus the fabled Pit Viper.
I cannot wait for this matchup.
This is gonna be
High-level
an interesting
stuff.
one. Tato, do you have any sort of thoughts on the technical side of things at all for these two?
1 or 2 or 5, I'll hit you with some stuff. And what you're about to hear from me is honestly gonna be surprisingly similar in a lot of ways. A lot of the things that you're going to see, in my opinion, with the Paul versus Chloe matchup, in many ways reflects some of the things that I think are going to be very important in the Fang versus Chloe matchup. And Paul, in my opinion, very strong character, very well rounded. He's got a lot of great tools. Very it's a very safe character. I think you don't really have to take a lot of risks with Paul if you don't want to in general. But I don't think that will be necessarily the case in this matchup because Paul relies very heavily in neutral and for mix-ups on a -14 on block low quarter circle forward 3. And as we know, Chloe can launch that. And you do not want to get launched by Chloe. Don't. So, but, Paul, it's tough because with Fang has amazing other lows that he can trade. He's got down back 3, he's got down 2. Paul does have some solid lows. Sidestep 3 is good, but it's a sidestep low that always comes with its own downsides. Down Demo Man is Demo Man. We'll get to that. There's back 4, which is good. It got buffed, but it's still not really that great of a low. I feel it's kind of slow, staying low. It's not
I think
too impressive.
Where Paul's lows really shine is when they hit counter hit.
Yeah, definitely.
Besides Demo Man, that's in a category of its own. That's more of a mind game tool than a low. But definitely back 4, quarter circle forward 3, sidestep 3, all those moves on counter hit are monstrous. Absolutely.
The damage is ridiculous. And, GD's a very good player. He's got very good execution. I won't be surprised if we see some counter hit quarter circle forward 3s into instant wall standing 3-2s from him. I wouldn't be surprised. You get a big ass launch off that. It's going to be a ton of damage, really strong. But, again, that's I think pretty well agree that quarter circle forward 3 is the Paul low at high level. It's pretty safe, high crush, that counter hit launch if you have the execution. It's 0 on hit, which means you have a lot of options afterwards as Paul. You don't have to deal with people, mashing. It's not like a minus on hit low where you have to respect them to an extent. You have a ton of options, so it's good. But I think that if we see Pit Viper block and launch some of those, I'm a little worried about Paul and his mix-up game, how it's going to fare. But on that front, Paul does have one ace up his sleeve, which is Demo Man. You're saying, okay, but Tato, you just said quarter circle 4-3 is launch punchable. Obviously, Demo Man is also launch punchable. Where's Paul with the low-risk lows? Whoa. Yeah, Demo Man's launch punchable if you block it. But most characters don't even need to block it to punish it. At least they don't need to block the first hit. Because they can just not get shallow hit by the first hit and then block the extensions. And then, most characters, even though there's some pushback, get a pretty good punish usually on Paul. But if there was a character in this game who's a gimmicky ass anime waifu who doesn't have good pushback punishment, oh wait, Chloe can't punish shallow hit Demo Man at all outside of probably niche wall low pushback scenarios. In the open, no punish, nada.
That's
safe.
That's gonna be something that GD can just finish it every time, and then at worst he could eat a mix-up if she runs up on him. But then she's playing his game because now if she runs up on him, what if he just throws out that safe down forward too? Yep, hooks her right in the chin. It's not a good position to be in as a defending player against Demo Man, not having a go-to punish for it.
It's brutal. But, Demo Man is still risky, and, it's better to get shallow hit than, as Chloe player at least, than to get clean hit by it, right? So it's not the best thing, but I definitely think it is a strength of Paul's. He's going to have to take some risks for lows, but I think that Demo Man, the risk versus reward is going to be better than usual. 4 circle 4-3 risk versus reward is going to be worse than usual. Curious to see if GD adapts his habits and low usage around that kind of weird matchup dynamic. So we'll see.
Yeah. Moving on to our next point. How do you think the stage matchups will be for these two? Do you think it'll be the same as the other set, or do you think it'll be maybe a little bit different?
I'm gonna be real with you. I think it'll be the same. You know, it's a lot of similar stuff. Wall push, rage drive. We got those shoulder. We got those. You know, we don't have. I don't think Paul has a safe. Okay, his wall bounce is actually pretty terrible. It is a safe wall bounce technically, but it's
plus
an
on
awful
block.
one.
It's plus.
It's
on
plus.
block even.
Yeah, that's
plus 1.
It is plus. It should be a great move. It's
Crutches
a terrible
lows.
move. Yeah, so good.
As he's flying through the air, you know, slowly. Yep.
Such a bad move. But no, he has a great wall game. You know, long ranged, mid wall splat with Punisher 4-4-2-1. He's got, you know, from crouch he can wall splat you at 13 frames. He's got, you know, really good back 1-2 12 frame wall splat as well. And you know, if he wants a safe mid wall splat, quarter circle back 2 is really, really strong. It's very fast. You know, it does require to come from back sway, but it's pretty fast, it's safe, leads to a lot of damage, especially on clean hit. If you're at the wall and you can't go anywhere, that clean hit's coming for you. Speaking of clean hit, Demo Man!
It's always looming. It's just hanging out like, hey, when are you gonna block low and eat this death fist? If he wants
Elephant
to risk it
in the room.
Yeah. Oh man.
And you know, I said earlier, Chloe's wall combo damage is not that great, but Paul does not have that problem. Paul's wall damage is a-okay. That new wall combo he got the other season, 3-2 quarter circle back 2, that is so good, so good, very consistent, very strong wall combo. I think he'll be you know, loving the walls if he gets a chance. So I'm hoping we get to see a similar stage counter pick dynamic between the two of them.
You know, and they often say with Paul, you know, the round doesn't start until Paul has rage. But I'm going to go ahead and say if Paul has rage and he's got wall advantage, the round's actually probably over.
It's, you know, he's going to make one decision and you're either going to die or you're going to kill him. That's just how you play against Paul.
One of those two.
They say Paul's not a 50-50 character, but when your back is to the wall.
Oh man.
Whew. Yeah, good luck. Especially on a character who can't punish out.
And even then, you know, GD could always test Pit Viper's. I don't imagine Pit Viper's throw breaks are awful. I think she probably has them, like, down packed. But if she slips up once, he's got, like, a 1 break to splat on the wall. He's got a 1+2 break to splat on the wall. Paul's wall game is just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And I imagine we'll probably see a lot of that come out later in the set as opposed to earlier. I can imagine GD's going to want to set a tone where he's probably going to use a lot of forward 1+2s to keep her from ducking and keeping his turn, and really just kind of making her not think about it. And then as soon as she's not thinking about it, just bam. Here comes all the other bullshit. Like, do you know this one? Do you know this one? I'm sure everyone does, but have you seen this one? So
get her with the sneaky stuff as we go. I think so. That forward 1+2 is so good as well. You know, Paul's got, I think, in this matchup, really strong pressure that Chloe might struggle with. We said earlier, you know, I said her panic moves are good, but they're not, I guess, panic moves in the classic sense. Like, yeah, up 3 is a panic move. Back 1+2 is a panic move, but she's not like Fang, right? She doesn't have the same kind of tools for escaping pressure like a really good backswing blow. I mean, she does have a backswing blow that's 2 of them actually, one of which is a gimmicky high wall bounce we talked about earlier. I forgot to mention that move is a backswing blow. Plus on block high wall bouncing backswing blow. What a I hate
and then she has Atlas Hammer.
Down back 1+2.
I think it's called Weave Hammer.
Aerial arc. Oh,
hit him with the Weave Hammer. She swings him upwards. The old Kaiser TV. If y'all haven't seen that before, oh man,
God,
that move was obnoxious.
It was annoying, but it's really risky. Also, launch punishable. But it's a launcher, so it's got its utility. It definitely can evade quite a bit of stuff. She's got so much sneaky, evasive nonsense, but what she doesn't have is counter hit tools, fast ones specifically. Fang's got that 10 frame counter hit back one. Most characters have, say, like a 12 frame Magic 4 is the most common one, I'm pretty sure. Some characters have 11 frame Magic 4s. A lot of characters have G-Clef cannons, 10 frame counter hit strings. It's got nothing like that. Her fastest counter hit string is 3-4, which is 14 frames. Yeah, it's mid, but that doesn't matter here. You want something fast against Paul. Why? Why do you want something fast? Specifically 12 frames or faster against Paul? Because of his down forward 1. If he does down forward 1 into backsway and does a backsway move from that, you need a 12 frame or faster move if you want to counter hit him out of that. There's always at least a 12 frame gap with all of his backsway moves. So if you have a strong on good Magic 4 that's 12 frames or so, yeah, you can make it work. You can definitely check him from getting too cocky with his pressure. But if you don't, like Chloe doesn't, I don't know. That's he can just kind of go ham. He doesn't have to. It's not that big of a risk. So we'll see. I don't know. Could end up that Chloe ends up eating a lot of really annoying pressure, but we'll find out, won't we?
And on the subject of down forward 1, there's a lot of Paul players out there, and I'm sure both of you have played plenty of Paul players that just really kind of abuse the down forward 1 game to the point it gets very predictable. The down forward 1 stuff can get fished out. Not GDI so much. He plays a really solid down forward 1 game, almost to the point where I played him and wondered to myself, why doesn't he use the down forward 1 stuff, the string mix-ups and the backsway mix-ups more often? But really, he just peppers it into his game extremely well to the point where, you'll be playing him, he'll do a down forward 1 backsway into some sort of stupid counter hit, and you'll be like, it's genius. Perfectly timed,
Yep.
At least expect it.
Absolutely.
GD's where he plays his moves is very specific.
Oh yeah.
He definitely is thinking really hard about what he wants to do when he approaches you.
Extremely meticulous player.
Sometimes he'll just do backsway out in the open, especially to get those counter hit quarter circle back 4s, and then just take you for a ride. He loves that counter hit. He likes checking with quarter circle 4 3+4, booster knee. It's just a safe mid. Just a safe mid. You can just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And it's quarter circle forward. I think if you can step it, he just boosts past you. You gotta run up on his ass. It's,
Paul's so safe. Ugh.
Yeah, it's safe on block. Who thought that was a good idea?
Fuck Paul.
God. Fucking Paul. God. And he's gonna have safe ass down forward 1 pressure. Doesn't need to worry about getting interrupted. Anything too scary. I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe he gets a little more liberal with it. Throws it out maybe a bit more than usual. If he's usually a bit reserved and meticulous with it, maybe we'll see him go full Unga Bunga. I would love to see some Unga Bunga GD. It's a rare sight, but that's not really his style, is it?
Pit Viper is very solid, though. He has to watch it with this one. Because
Oh, absolutely.
I think that if anybody's going to make a read off a GD quickly, it's going to be Pit Viper. I can only imagine she's played against a Paul player before. Well, GD is his own person. He's still a Paul player, you can read him just like any other Paul player. Besides Knee,
sure.
probably. But even then,
yeah, she might get the download. Who am I to say? Last point on here is gonna be pretty much the same as the Feng one. Paul, he's got a shoulder. It's pretty good. In one way, it's better. It's 12 frames. That doesn't really matter here, but hey, it's something. But what does matter is range, and unfortunately Paul's isn't as good as Fang's in terms of range, and that has some consequences here. Paul's shoulder isn't the consistent punish on up 3 that Fang's is, and that matters. At further ranges that stuff whiffs, she's just gonna do it again. Bully players, they'll do it. They don't care. So that's bad, but still, it's a shoulder. It's good damage. And it's still really useful in these situations where you need something that's a fast mid punisher. If he wants to punish up 3, if G's really on the ball, he's got 3-2. But that low block stun on up 3, I think that something like down 1+2 for that shoulder, or back 1-2 for another really fast punish that can do easily from blocking will be strong. So yeah, I think that could work out for him well if he knows those situations. A lot of Chloe's knowing all these weird options that she has, this gimmicky, punishable stuff, and having that shoulder there to check her will be good if he uses it properly. So yeah, hope to see it.
For sure. And with the shoulders as a way to stop Chloe's sort of mix-up pressure from Cali roll, I think in certain situations you want to be a little bit more careful. I've seen Cali roll go under shoulders. I don't know why it happens, but I've seen it. I think something that Paul has over Feng in that department is that Paul has a generic down 4 in down back 4. And that will hit her out of Cali roll. Feng does not have that. He has down 3 and it's not nearly as fast. It's quick, but you still are susceptible from getting hit by Cali roll.
True.
So I think that Paul is definitely going to handle this character a lot better than Feng if we're going back to our last matchup.
Yeah.
Paul's just a great character.
He's just so much. I don't know. I think Paul's just way better in general. He's so solid and safe.
I know a lot of people agree with you there.
I think he's one of the best characters in the game, easily.
Top 3.
Also good. Feng's got some tricks. Maybe we'll see how it goes. Hey, JustFrame, why don't you give us what you think of the player matchup on this one?
Right on. Yeah, so, we got this matchup, GDIs versus Pit Viper TK. You compare that to the last matchup between Chopsticks and Ruby, and this matchup is infinitely more three-dimensional in terms of the players as well as potential character selections. So let's look at these players one by one. First of all, let's take a look at GDIs. GDIs is one of the best players in Minnesota Tekken, bar none. If you were to ever ask me on any given day the top 3 highest potential players who I think could take their game to the next professional type of level, GDIs always makes that list of those top 3 players. Why is he like that? First of all, absolutely eidetic Tekken brain. Does that mean he has RB Norway memorized in his head? No, not necessarily. But here's the thing. GDIs knows a lot of tech. And when he knows it, he stores it in that brain, and he can retrieve that knowledge at any given time at light speed. His punishes, the consequences his punishes are almost always on. His situational knowledge is always at its peak. His while-standing punish game is some of the best while-standing punish games that I've ever seen out of a Tekken player. With that, he also has professional level execution. This guy can do some of the most amazing things with Paul and especially Feng combos. At times when he decides to bring out what he calls his Fengus. But yeah, the stuff that he's doing, and we're talking about, not just on offlines, but we're talking about online 4-bar connections. He's pulling up professional level combos with some of these characters, and it's absolutely just ridiculous. So really, the biggest strengths for GDIs is he has the knowledge and the execution that are just some of the best in Minnesota Tekken. But where does GDIs fall short? You can see it very clear on their radar chart. It falls into the clutch and to a certain extent the audacity. First of all, GDIs, when he's on. He's locked in. He's one of the best. Absolutely no doubt about it. But here's the problem. There is a very big disparity between his top level of play and days that he is off. When GDIs is off, he is absolutely off. There is a noticeable market difference in his play. It's almost like he's really not invested in playing at the time, even though he actually is. He wants to play well. He's just not playing too well. I think a really big part of that is he's a very young player. GDIs is a very, very young player, especially in the competitive scene. He's still very prone to some of those competition nerves, and for that reason, I've seen him in a lot of different brackets, whether they're just informal brackets or actual tournaments, where he's susceptible to not pull out that clutch win in some of those key moments. It's almost like all of his Tekken knowledge and his hands just leave him when he's facing that moment of truth. And then finally, the big weakness on GDIs is what you might expect out of somebody who has that much knowledge and that much execution, and that he is sometimes a little bit too bound to the rules of Tekken. Sometimes he'll find himself in a situation and he will play 100% by how the rules of the game dictate. Doesn't really go out of his way to take some of those big risks. Doesn't like to find himself in really minus or punishable situations. So that can present a big problem, especially against a character like Lucky Chloe. So we'll see. We'll see if, first of all, we'll see if he shows up ready to play. And second, we'll see if he's willing to break the rules a little bit every so often. Then moving on to Pit Viper. Pit Viper is a solid all-around Tekken player. The biggest strength that I'm going to give her off the bat is something that I think is really overlooked with Pit Viper, and that's she is extremely well-rounded. And I think that gets overlooked strictly because she plays Lucky Chloe. A lot of people see her play Lucky Chloe and they pass it off like, oh, winning because of the bullshit, winning because of the gimmicks. Yeah, that's a stupid 50-50 situation. I just guessed wrong. I don't think that's accurate. After watching Pit Viper, watching a lot of her streams, meeting her a few times in bracket, seeing her advance really far in some tournament brackets, I am very convinced that she knows exactly when she's breaking rules, and she is making a very calculated decision to break some of those rules. I think she knows this game very, very, very well, and I think a lot of people forget that or completely miss that about her. Second of all, she's an excellent reader at Tekken. Specifically, to go back to some of the tech you were talking about, Tato, about some of Paul's lows, she reads lows extremely well. She almost has a sixth sense for them, I feel like. So that might present a problem with GDI's trying to use lows to mix up his poke game, because it's something she does extremely, extremely well. And then finally, she just exposes the biggest strengths of Chloe in a really big way. She has a ridiculous mix-up game. She thrives on some of those 50-50 situations, impose her will on the opponent, make them guess. And of course, we're talking about Lucky Chloe. If you guess wrong with Lucky Chloe on something like a Cali roll, well, goodbye life bar. So weaknesses in terms of weaknesses for Pit Viper. So really, you have GD, who plays 3 different tournament characters. He plays an outstanding Paul, and he plays 2 very good other characters. He plays a very good Fang and a very, very good Gigas. Pit Viper, on the other hand, she's a 2-character player from what I've seen. I have not seen her pull out any other character other than Chloe or Jin in a tournament or competitive type setting. That doesn't mean she necessarily doesn't have anybody else, but those are the only 2 characters I've seen her play and feel very comfortable with in a tournament type of setting. That said, there is a noticeable performance gap between her Chloe and her Jin. Now, that's not to say her Jin is bad. She plays a very solid Jin, but I think it more goes to the fact that she plays an awesome Chloe, and her Jin just isn't quite as awesome. Next, I've noticed that Pit Viper can be a little bit slow to adapt, specifically in some tournaments I've seen. She'll part of her matchup will get exposed, and it'll take a few rounds, up to sometimes a couple of sets, which has been key to some of her defeats in brackets, where she just doesn't adapt quick enough and take the advantage back with the meta. And then finally, there's the big elephant in the room that you have to note with a Lucky Chloe character, and that is that Pit Viper mains what is almost universally considered to be a lower tier character. There's something to be said about how balanced Tekken is, but now we're starting to look at a bit of a war of the extremes. We're looking at Chloe, who's considered universally low tier, against a Paul, who's considered universally top tier. So I think that also might factor into this player versus player matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Who sucks?
Yeah. With the Paul versus Chloe matchup, I think that you'll probably see her be a little bit more comfortable going Chloe as far as Jin is concerned. Chloe's just, I think that the reason you see a lot of her gaps between her main and her secondary is because Jin is such a different character than Chloe.
Oh, absolutely.
Fundamental wise.
Yeah.
And not to mention how long has she even played Jin as compared to Chloe. She probably came up with Chloe, and all her comfortability is there with Chloe. Maybe her Jin seems a little stiff because she just hasn't had that much time with him. We'll have to see. Maybe she's working on him, I could see her getting frustrated if GD's too on point and switching to Jin to kind of see if that'll work for a bit, and then switching back to Chloe if it doesn't. But, at the same time, I think she is pretty solid, and she can run the gauntlet with Chloe against Paul. But time will tell.
Absolutely. And a little bit of inside information here. I just actually talked to GD today. GD and I are pretty good friends, and he was talking to me about this potential matchup. He's saying, really concerned about the Jhin matchup. Jhin might be a little bit of a hole in GD's game. So if Pit Viper can come out with a strong Jhin, that might actually be a turning point for the matchup. But never discount GDIs, because the moment he said that, he probably went to practice mode and figured out the Jhin matchup with that stupid Tekken brain of his.
Yep. I know that GD definitely has more experience against Chloe than Jhin in our scene specifically.
Absolutely.
I know he plays Ruby a lot. And as far as Jhin players go, we don't have any. We have maybe Schwandadandi, and y'all bet him. So he's not a Jhin player. He just plays Jhin.
We got Kawil, but he's on PS4.
Yeah, Kewell is in like a different tri-state area as far as we're concerned all the time.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep. But I will say this, direct quote from GDI's himself: "I am not afraid of the Chloe matchup."
Oh.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
Paul just handles it so well. I think to stop Cali roll, he can just down one. Just straight up. Just to get her knock that off. We're not doing this. Yeah.
Bonks on the head. Yeah. So that brings me to keys of the victory.
Yes.
Keys to victory between the GDIs and Pit Viper matchup. First of all, GDIs. Big elephant in the room to address with GDIs first is he's got to show up on his game. He can't show up with his second tier GDI's gameplay. He's got to show up on point because Pit Viper is just that good. Pit Viper will present a challenge. I don't care how mismatched the Paul versus Chloe matchup. Pit Viper is just a very solid Tekken player. She cannot be slept on. There's just such a massive disparity between his on and his off game. If he shows up and he's not on, it could bode very, very poorly for him. Second, he got to keep it conservative. And I don't think this is going to be a problem for GDIs. GDIs play such a smart and methodical game of Tekken. He's got the matchup knowledge. Like I just said, direct quote, "I'm not afraid of the Chloe matchup." So I don't think that's going to be a big problem for him. And then finally, I think he's really got to collect payment on mistakes. Really make Pit Viper play by the rules, or at least question times where she knows she wants to break the rules and use the Chloe exposure tools. Then second, for Pit Viper, I think Pit Viper has to show up, and she needs to be a little bit flexible as this FT10 goes on. GD can play a good fair amount of characters, at least 3 in which he is tournament comfortable. So if GDIs wants to come out and start flexing his versatility a little bit, she may have to do some flexing as well. Second of all, she's got to break the rules early, and she needs to find some early success on breaking those rules to really force GD to start making reads instead of using eidetic tech knowledge, and really question whether his strategy is going to work over an FT10. And then finally, I think comes down to the tournament and competitive experience. Pit Viper is a more experienced competitive player. I think she needs to rely on that competitive experience in some of those close battles so she can pull out and clutch out some of those close victories when they really, really matter.
Yeah, and we talk about GD being a young player who's new to the competitive scene. Pit Viper is a relatively younger player who's just been in the competitive scene for much longer.
Absolutely.
If anybody can pull out that competitive clutch, I think she has more of a handle on it than maybe GDIs does,
Yeah.
Yep. From what I understand, Pit Viper came in and it was just baptism by fire in the competitive scene for her, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we will lead into our final topic. It'll be the predictions as far as what do we think. What are our takeaway thoughts from all this? What do we think here? I think we have JustFrame's predictions up on screen right now. If you want to explain some of these, go ahead.
Absolutely. First we start off with the Chopsticks versus Ruby matchup. I think it's going to be a better matchup than last Money Match Friday. I think Marcel's going to come in. He's going to learn a couple of gimmicks that he got exposed by last time, and he's going to learn from that a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more prepared. He's going to be a little bit more patient. In terms of Ruby, I don't think she trains at all. In fact, I doubt Ruby even shows up for the match on time. Say we schedule this match tomorrow for 9 o'clock p.m. My prediction is that Ruby stops playing Minecraft at 9 o'clock. Then she signs on to Tekken and makes everybody wait until she is ready to fight at 9:05. But that's just the kind of person Ruby is. That's just trademark Ruby attitude for you. Just to clown on everybody and troll everybody.
She walks in with the McGregor. Swinging
Absolutely.
everywhere. What's going on? Yep.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think Ruby still wins, largely just on the bad Fang versus Chloe matchup and just the big holes in Marcel's knowledge of the Chloe versus Fang matchup. I think Ruby walks away with a second win of 10-7, and Marcel, I'm sorry, I love you, brother. I think you're getting memed again.
Oh no!
Another YouTube video on its way.
Yep.
All right.
Oh god!
Tato, what do you think about that matchup? What do you predict is going to happen between Marcel and Ruby?
I got faith in Marcel. I believe that he's gonna pull the unexpected, just lab the shit out of the matchup at a time, and get ready for all the gimmicks. Maybe that's not his style. I know he isn't playing a lot of Tekken lately, but I don't think you need to play a ton of Tekken for a long time. I think you just need to go hit the lab, figure your shit out. I think he can do it. I got faith. It's maybe not the most likely thing based on his habits, but if he knows what's good for him, I think he will do it. We'll put in the time. So, yeah, I believe I'm going to go Marcel on this one. Let's say like 10-7. Chopsticks. You can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Nice. Personally, I know both these people very, very well. I'm assuming neither of them have played Tekken for the last month. If anything, Ruby's gonna walk in with a new character and just blow all this shit out of the water.
My God.
And it's gonna be like
Meme on all of us.
Yep, it's gonna be a fucking 10-1, straight up.
Oh, good lord.
10-0 if it's worst case scenario.
Who's the new character?
I could imagine it's probably something stupid like Zavina or Zhao Yu.
Oh,
something
God.
super stupid. Just goes, oh, you
Mega
think Core
dumb.
Level Forward 1 invade something? Let me show you this shit. This is called Scam.
Comes in with
Yeah.
Link, said I'm changing up the flavor of Cali roll, right?
Yep. Look at this, I can roll to the side now. Alright, and moving on. JustFrame, care to explain your thoughts on the predictions for GDIs versus Pit Viper here?
Absolutely. So, running theme for the GDIs versus Pit Viper matchup, just this one phrase: good ass Tekken. It's going to be so awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to be a back and forth battle. I think there's going to be a lot of people in the chat who are going to be predicting one or the other, and I think it's going to go. I think it's just going to be a long, drawn out, really good battle. A lot of close matches. A lot of double Luigis. I think it goes like this. I think Pit Viper takes an early lead. I think I think GD comes in. I think he plays a little bit of the exposure game a little bit, but I think Pit Viper comes out straight up with Chloe and just starts taking games off right off the bat. I do think GD plays the majority of this FT10 with Paul, but I'm going to go with the prediction that he actually comes out with Gigas. And I think he does it just to see what he can expose right back with characters such as Gigas, who just has some exposure tools of his own. But I think at the end of the day, GD edges out on adaptability and his pure Tekken knowledge, and I just don't think Pit Viper has the ability to last with GDIs over something like an FT10, especially playing a character like Chloe for that long. I think just knowledge and execution ends up taking the day. GDIs, who is S tier in both of those for MNT, I think he ends up prevailing in a really long, drawn-out, hard battle, comes out on top 10-8.
You think it's Minnesota over Colorado?
I think it's Minnesota over Colorado, and I promise you there's no homer feelings there.
Oh, okay.
I'm with you on that one. I mean, just look at this objectively. Let's say they're of equal skill. Very strong players. Assume they're of equal skill. Who plays the better character of the two of them? Who plays more characters at a high level of the two of them?
We don't know.
It's GD. It's GD.
I don't know. Maybe Pit Viper shows up to offline locals and just hits random select.
Yeah, and we don't know. Maybe so, maybe so. I'm not confident. I think that if you're up against someone else and all you've got is Lucky Chloe, like that's your character, really, bruh.
I will say this. I will add this. I have watched some Twitch streams of Pit Viper where she's gone on player match and done random select, and she's pulled out characters like Julia out in the Shark Tank, and she has legitimately gone without knowing really anything about Julia, and was beating some red and purple ranked players just off of her fundamental knowledge of the game.
Oh yeah,
Chloe player's the master of random.
I think that the fact that Pit Viper's come so far with a character like Lucky Chloe, such low tier, yeah, that's definitely something to say. You know, that's something
Absolutely.
that Chloe isn't doing the most there. Pit Viper's doing the most. As a fellow low tier player myself, there's something to respect in that. You know,
Ours isn't low tier anymore, Bert.
I know. Listen.
No respect. Why do people play low tiers? God, could you imagine playing a low tier character? I would never.
You know, recently I've enjoyed the B tier life. It's been pretty nice with Lars. You know, he has gotten nothing but buffs. At one point, they gave him a gun in season 2. I don't know what about that. Took it away immediately though. Thanks, Barada. So as far as that goes, Tato, who do you think wins, Minnesota or Colorado? What's your prediction?
Oh, definitely GD. I pen GD on this one, just because of the matchup and the variety of characters. I think that they're both very strong players. So, but GD has that adaptability, as JustFrameHotPocket was saying, that I think will really prevail. Personally, that's my take.
Okay.
No disrespect though to Pit Viper, coming this far with Chloe, I think it's just a burden that she's going to have to overcome.
Okay. So you're also in the Minnesota over Colorado wheelhouse. I like it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that Pit Viper definitely has the best chance of being GD out of all the players we could have picked. Her fundamentals are solid. As far as matchups go, this is Colorado versus Minnesota. We're all going. A bunch of us Minnesotans are going out to Colorado in June to continue the storyline. So I think here it would be really nice to see Colorado just wash GD.
Yeah.
And us have to come back for a revenge match. Coming in looking for blood. So it's definitely gonna get spilled on Friday.
You're looking at the overall lore picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to see Pit Viper walk. Like I want to see her dog walk GD. In the words of Marcel.
Oh.
In the words of Marcel. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be close at all. It'll be super interesting. And then I want to see that resurgence where GD comes back and sort of like takes it to her in tournament, first to 2 of all things, not just a first to 10. But that's just my predictions. I hope Pit Viper just fucking hands GD his own ass on a platter. That has no personal beef whatsoever in it. I love GD.
Spark the fire.
Just saying.
Everybody loves GD.
Oh yeah, how can you not?
But yeah, and with that, looks like we are all wrapped up here. All closing things I really have to say is tune in Friday, May 14th, 8:30 p.m. Central to watch these 4 competitors go at each other. I would like to say thank you to JustFrameHotPocket for coming out, giving that beautifully eloquent speech over all these characters. I love his charts. I like the way he represents the head, the arms, and the heart, or opposite.
That graph is godly.
Arms. Yep. That's super amazing. And I like to thank Tato here. He does the homework. He looks into the move lists. He looks at the frame data. He thinks about what the other player might be thinking about. It's all there.
You forgot the most important thing. I'm in every Tekken character Discord, and I go into each one for the matchup channel for the other character. That's where you find the real shit.
Oh yeah, he's in there,
Damn.
He's digging his trench in each of those character Discords, just setting in deep. It just is what it is. That's why we love him.
Thank you.
All right.
Honored.
And with that, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Like I said, tune in Friday, 8:30 p.m. Central, and come watch some good ass Tekken.
Can't wait for it.
And this has been Road to Money Match Friday with JustFrameHotPocket and TatoFGC. We'll be signing out here now.